So Father Mike, tell Senator Lucio and myself and the audience why it's so important to donate money and help you and this particular cathedral be brought back the way it needs to be brought back in this day and time. It is on the National Historic Register. It is a historic place the further south of any historic place in the entire United States of America. Why is it so important to restore the Immaculate Conception Cathedral?
It's the mother church of the diocese, and it's where the Oblates first came and built this church to serve the people who were living here, particularly the people from Mexico who didn't have priests. And for those reasons, I think it's important that we keep it alive and we keep it flourishing. As you can see, as we're talking, people are coming back and forth. There's always someone in the church, someone from the neighborhood, someone from the city of Brownsville, some people from outside that come here all day long to find spiritual nourishment.
Senator Lucio, why do you think it's so important?
I think we need to preserve history. Especially history is important as this cathedral and what it's meant to this community.
And to the nation.
You know, politicians talk about preparing for the next election, and quite frankly, we need to prepare for the next generation. Well, and that's what you would be doing here. You prepare for the next generation of Christians who, in this community, this state, and this country, would travel here and be able to see what actually transpired here over 150 years ago. We've had beautiful structures, beautiful historical buildings just completely torn down, parking lots built in place of them. I would really, and I say this with all my heart and all sincerity, I would die 1,000 deaths. No, if we would allow that to happen with something such as the important as this cathedral. I would hope that all of us could get together, Ron, Father Michael, this whole diocese, this whole southern part of our state, and recognize the importance of this cathedral and come together collectively to try to raise money, as can be affordable by those people that are seeing this program, that will be, hearing about the need to refurbish and keep up, this cathedral for future generations.
Well, Mike, what needs to be done? Now, it would appear to me that this particular area needs to at least have a good power washing, maybe a new paint job. We have a lot of edifices all around just at the entrance of the cathedral, and that too should be something that people would want to contribute money to help get this cathedral up to where it needs to be.
Yes.
Is that what you see? Tell us what you see here.
Well, I see what you just mentioned. When we go inside, you're going to see the ceiling.
Good, great.
And what the ceiling is made out of is canvas. And for that to be replaced and maybe even restored to the way it was, that would be a good thing to do. I'll show you the ceiling here. That blue ceiling is canvas, and maybe for it to be cleaned up, maybe even replaced.
It's canvas.
Yes.
150-year-old canvas?
150-year-old canvas. And so maybe to redo that, they painted over it.
Does it need to be replaced? 150.
Some people say yes, but then there are other people who say that the oblates, the architect was an oblate, that he did such a good job that it doesn't need to be replaced. But I think the professionals would be able to tell us better than a judgment that I would make. I would like to keep it, but I think we got to, like what the senator said.
Needs to be evaluated.
Exactly.
Wow.
And preparing for the next generation, as Senator Lucio said.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Okay. There are a couple of spots where it leaks, but those are few. But there's one over in the corner here, and then one back over by the confessional, where there's a little bit of leakage. But other than that, it's pretty good. When they first got here, they put stars. There were stars, and then in 1974, it was refurbished, and they took away the stars. I need to sit and talk with somebody and see whether or not we should bring that back or not. You know, it does give you a sense of being.
I remember those stars.
You remember the
I
stars?
remember the stars as a little boy.
Of course.
You know, I was born in 1946, and my parents would bring me here, and after Mass at 6:30 in the morning, we would go down to the Brownsville market, and I love the aroma of all those vegetables and meat, and I can still see this church. It was, to me as a child, awesome, huge, you know, and beautiful, and it was so meaningful.
That's where a child experiences.
The mass at that time was done in Latin, and I would like to see, obviously, certain masses go back to the original form, and the altar, as Father Michael might see it also, redone in its original form. Though that would be something special. Again, I want my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren and their children to have this in their community so that it can be part of them. And
what did the stars represent to you as a child?
Heaven. I looked up and I thought of God, I thought of heaven, and I thought about, you know, with the blue so pleasant to my eye, it was just serenity, you know, it was something very pleasant. As a child, I would hang on to my parents, but I knew that I was in good hands in this cathedral. So this cathedral is very meaningful to me, and those that have been products of the greatest generation during World War II, like myself, who are still here. I mean, many of my youthful friends or come to church here, I'm sure that they have the same thoughts I do.
Yep.
Father Mike, you have 2 votes.
Okay, good.
Restore the star.
Okay.
What next?
That's good.
Show us the leak. Show us the leak.
Well,
or the confessional.
Come on.
Did it spring the last time that Senator Lucio came to confession, you think?
It might have done that. You can't really see it, but apparently there's one over in this corner here. The confessional is back there, and we've done some touching up. I don't know if you want to see that.
Yeah, let's see that.
Okay.
See the cracks and the cracks. There's more cracks right in here, and they seem to be where the columns are.
Here's where we're getting a lot of leaks.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
right over here.
Oh, yeah,
Now,
it's
whether
important.
that
It's important.
if that's affecting
That would be
the
perfect.
ceiling, we got to get that done.
Yeah,
you
that
know,
was important for them to see.
right over here.
Right here.
You can see here that. Now we don't know whether this is coming from where it would affect the ceiling later on or not. You know, I'm not really sure, but we've had to touch this up and removed a layer of paint so that the water would be able to seep in. When we had those bad rainfalls a couple of months ago, this was a real mess.
This moisture could be seepage from internal. Could be internal, it could be external.
Could be internal, we're not
No,
really sure.
and
We need
that
to
could
take
be a
look at
serious problem.
Serious.
I'm not a structural engineer, obviously, but this could be a serious deterrent to the future of the
I'm
cathedral.
not sure whether it was the last time Senator Lucio went to confession or not. I'm not sure it is, but I don't think it was. I don't think so.
My head was way before I left.
Okay.
What next?
Maybe we could look at the altar there.
Okay. We noticed some cracks in the floor
Yes. Yeah.
also.
Yeah, the floor. Yeah. You can see it there. Right? You know, like to keep the floor the way it is for the most part. You can see OMI, Oblate of Mary Immaculate. Eh? So they were the first oblates, the first priests that were here. The oblates. All day long, people are coming in. I sat in here one day just to see, and I think in the space of half an hour, There was something like 27 people came in. 27 people.
Just to make a visit?
Just to make a visit. Yeah. Because there's, people say, well, maybe we should close the church, because most churches close during the daytime. They're afraid of vandalism, whatnot, for other reasons. We have to pay to keep the air conditioning going, the heat in the winter. But I really think it's worth it to keep the place open. Pope John the 23rd talked about how the parish should be the village fountain. And I think that this is what our place should be, the village fountain,
Do you have security cameras in the church?
We don't.
If you're going to leave it open, then that's a need. I would think, Senator Lucio, if the father is going to continue to open the church on hours when it could be vulnerable, it needs to have a security system installed, and that's additional.
But the important thing is, I think we need to establish respect amongst all people, that they have to respect, the cathedral is a place of worship for thousands and thousands of people, and that it's historically significant to the community. We need to go back to the old days when we left our front door open and our car unlocked. And people need to respect, once again, what's before them and what's important in our lives and their lives. And cameras might be able to pick up a vandal, but what if that vandal is a person in total poverty that will never be able to replace, what they destroyed? I think a sense of responsibility needs to be reinstilled in the minds of this generation and future generations, like they were in ours, growing up as kids, by our parents and community leaders, and especially our religious leaders. And Father Michael, to me, represents what's the very best of priesthood and goodness, and he's always radiating a person that cares, and that's what we need. That's the kind of role models we need, whether they're Catholics or non-Catholics, but religious leaders need to put out that kind of message to the congregations they're responsible for.
Well, Mike, as we come to the altar, I remember as a non-Catholic marrying my Catholic wife and looking up at the at this altar at the time. Show us what else needs to be done here at the altar.
Well, this was done over in 1974. I think you were married in 1976. So you would have seen him looking at this.
Yes.
Before that, you would have had an altar that the traditional churches have. This would not be my decision, but I would like to see that kind of altar restored.
Against the wall.
So that the Blessed Sacrament would be there, and that possibly, I love the Mass the way we have it now, but Pope Benedict has allowed the Mass the way it was said in the 1950s for 400 years before that, and maybe we could even have that here with that kind of an altar where it would be appropriate to do so. This is beautiful the way it is, and it brings out our bishop, his seal, his crest, his motto, but the possibility of having an altar that you see in the older churches would be something that I would like to do.
This is a 150-year-old historical edifice.
Yes. And when we were talking about the restoration, that's what it meant, was to restore it the way it was. So, again, the Bishop Flores would have the last word on that. We'd respect to what he said, but
this
is his church. That's his chair. He sits there, over there. Some cathedrals, what they do is they have the old-fashioned altar, and then they have the bishop's chair over on the side. The possibility of doing that. Who knows?
So under your suggestion for consideration, the wooden that we see here would be taken away and restored back to the masonry.
I would like to see that, yes. Yeah.
And what would be done under that scenario with the woodwork? It could be taken to another more modern church and utilized?
I haven't thought of that, but when you were asking me the question, maybe we could do something with it so that it can stay, so that we don't give the impression that, well, that idea was a bad one and we want to remove it. No, because then, 20 years from now, somebody come in and say, well, let's put the wood back up. Like, there's a lot of that happens in the church, and we don't want to get into that. But maybe there could be something constructed that would keep the memory of that alive, because the priest who did that, he that was in his heart. That's what he wanted to see, and it does make the church look very simple. The altar would still be simple, but it would be a little bit different. It would be more. It wouldn't be as simple as this is here.
Well, undoubtedly, the wood that we see and the audience is seeing is more of a modernization technique.
Exactly. Yes.
And if you're looking to restore it back to 150 years ago as an historical edifice, then on that basis, in fact, it would be something to contemplate and consider prayerfully with the bishop
yes, it'd be.
and the Holy Spirit to see whether or not this is a good idea.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
What next?
So the Holy Spirit has the last word.
Absolutely.
This crucifix was here since, I believe, 1860, so about a year after. And you can see that we would not restore the feet because that's a symbol of people coming in and touching the Lord. So, I think that's like in St. Peter's where the toe of St. Peter is worn out.
In La Pieta, too. I remember when I touched La Pieta, it's worn down.
I think we want
from all the millions of people.
We want to keep that, and then,
wow.
Of course, Our Lady of Guadalupe. I think we're happy with the statues that we have. There's no problem there. Here is the architect of the church here, Father Carolum.
Ron, this is the architect of the church.
Mm-hmm.
Father Carolum is the architect. He was a young priest, he was in his 50s, but he got lost in Mercedes. A lot of people around here know the story of Father Pedrito, who went out visiting the sick and never came back. November 12th, 1872. And 10 years later, when the Oblate Fathers in Rome were thinking about pulling out of here, they found his bones and his chalice and his money, and they realized that he had gotten lost. And because of that, the Oblate said, no, they need to stay here. So, wow. You want to notice the floor there.
Mm-hmm. I think, Ron, collectively, we as a not only Catholic community, but as a Christian community, can make it possible for us to achieve their goals, the goals of the Immaculate Conception Cathedral. I am one, for example, that I give to other denominations when they're in need, when they're raising money. I think many of us feel that way regardless. I have people today who are already committed to give who are non-Catholics. This is not only about the Catholics that come here and the Catholic religion. This is about, something so significant, so important to all of us. A historical building that should continue to serve purposes other than the religious worship that takes place here. History would teach us in the future that there were men from other countries that came here, and this church actually drew people to this community and established economic development. At that time, businesses came to town, provided jobs for people. So the non-Catholics also succeeded and were successful because of the church coming here. So I think it's played an incredible role in so many ways. So I think that's one of the reasons all of us should come together and try to preserve it, try to move forward, and make sure that the following generation can enjoy it.
Well, Father Mike, coming as it were just slightly over a decade after the war with Mexico, when this area was claimed by the United States following that war and the Treaty of Guadalupe. This was, in fact, the statement of the people that this is a civilized area. This is, in fact, a civilized community. And by virtue of that, we have planted a church, this church, 150 years ago, and make that statement. And therefore, the economic development of this region, from here all the way to Galveston, which was the cathedral at that particular time, think of that, how big a diocese was that? That was what happened 150 years ago, and this edifice made that statement.
That's right. I think you could say that it humanized. It humanized, and that's what the church does, is it makes us more human. It helps us to be saints with a lot of struggle, but it also humanizes us too. And you can see the way the Oblates functioned, in the sense of they brought over their statues of Mary. I could show you the 2 statues of Mary that they brought over to bring the devotion of Mary to the people, but the one who has a very prominent place is Our Lady of Guadalupe. So they pulled out from the people, they just observed who they were devoted to, and they took a back seat to what the people were devoted to, and went with the people. So I don't know if that fits in with what we're saying there about humanizing and not domineering.
Well, it also was the focal point of family, because we suddenly went from being one Mexico to Mexico on the other side, just a few blocks south, and the United States north here where this church is. And there were a lot of intermarriage because that was necessary from both sides. The McAllens married into the Mexican society. Petra Vela Kennedy married a Quaker, John Kennedy, in order to become again an intermarriage of the Mexican society and the United States society in order to develop economically this entire region. And those marriages were happening right here.
The founder of Brownsville, Charles Stillman, same thing. I just attended a celebration, 200 years since Charles Stillman was born. We celebrated his 200th birthday anniversary, and we met the Stillman family, and that's exactly what has happened. The soldiers that came to Fort Brown and all the
intermarriage that occurred there.
The Champions and many other families, who stayed here and who became part of the culture here. That's why when those of us that live here feel a strong sense of responsibility to continue to strengthen our relationships with Mexico because of history.
Brother Mike, it's a good segue that Senator Lucio has talked about going to the Stillman Chapel. Let's work our way on over that way.
Okay. This is the Stillman Chapel. There are 2 plaques in his honor, his family's honor. So a lot of people come in and are reminded about the contribution that he made, and then the petition that he has to have people to pray for him. But this is the Stillman Chapel. We were talking about vandalism, and this was vandalized, I believe in the 1960s. And you can see the marks on the floor where there was a big fire in this section of the church, and all these marks on the floor are from the fire, from the fire falling down. And of course we would have to work on that, God willing. But we used to have the original painting. I believe it's Our Lady of Good Counsel, I'm not sure, but that had to be taken out because the insurance would have been too high because of what had happened. So they had to take out the original work of art and put a copy of it in. Yeah. So that's, that we were talking about the vandalism there. Hopefully it won't happen again, whether the cameras would help. But this part was damaged, and it could have been terrible. It could have been the loss of the church, but the firefighters were able to get here and put it out as soon as they could. Well,
The diocese does have a history of that sort of thing in the San Juan Cathedral
yes.
before it became a basilica.
Yeah,
Right.
but this is the Stillman Chapel, and it used to be used, I believe, no, I'm sorry, it wasn't for baptisms, no. I believe when the altar had the Blessed Sacrament there, this would be just a place of prayer. But now it's a place where the Blessed Sacrament is, and as you can see, people are here praying for their special intentions.
In particular, what needs to be done in this chapel?
I'd say the floor, maybe to polish up the plaques a little bit, to bring that out. You know, working on the altar itself, to do that, maybe even the stained glass window. You know, I come from Montreal, and the priest in the parish that my parents went to, he had all the stained glass windows redone, in a sense of cleaned. And what a difference it makes. You know, you look at it and you say, well, it doesn't look dirty to me, but it's amazing what a good cleaning could do in bringing out the art even more.
Beautiful.
Do you have any history about Cardinal Alberto Medeiros when this was his church as bishop?
Yes.
Do you have anything that he did while here,
Well,
or?
No, I heard of Cardinal Medeiros because he was the Bishop of Boston, Cardinal in Boston, and I was stationed in Boston, not while he was Cardinal, but that's how I knew him. I never knew he came from Brownsville until I came here 5 years ago. But I don't have anything about what he did. I do know that he was very good with the young people, and on Saturday night he would invite them over to his house and have discussions about the faith with them, which is quite rare that bishops would take a Saturday night for that. He was very good with the young people, and the young people who are now my age used to love him a lot. He still do. So,
They're young.
I can remember as a young journalist for KRIO being in his home on Palm Boulevard when they were using the mansion at that time for the bishop's residence.
Yeah.
And when you were in his presence, you literally felt you were in the presence of the Lord Jesus Christ himself.
that's beautiful.
Very,
That's beautiful.
a very good man.
Yeah.
Okay, what next?
Okay. Well, I think we have Mass pretty soon. I'm not sure. I heard one bell go off.
Okay.
You want to show them
Maybe we
that
can
back
show
room? You think you should show them that
Yeah.
back room real quick?
Yeah, that'd be a good idea. Yes.
We can do it in 5 minutes.
Duty calls, Father.
This is the sacristy here, and
There's
this is where the bishop was best. Those are all the bishops of Brownsville, starting with Bishop Marks, Cardinal Medeiros, Bishop Fitzpatrick, Bishop San Pedro, Bishop Pena, and Bishop Flores. The architect of the church, if we get a visiting priest from another country or another state and doesn't know the name of the bishop, he'll remember that during the Mass. Some various pictures.
we even have a Senate proclamation.
There you go, that's right, yes. Yeah.
Actually,
Two.
yeah, that is the Senate proclamation.
We have two.
This one here is significant, very significant. What we did in the Senate, Ron, was to pass a memorial resolution on the life of Pope Paul II when he passed away, and this frame was done by. We have 7,000 carpenters in our Texas prisons, and I petitioned them. I asked them to build frames for each one of our churches in the diocese, actually in my senatorial district. But Bishop Pena says, no, I want them in the entire diocese. I says, yes, sir. Yes, Bishop. So I still haven't given them all out over a period of a couple of years now that I've been trying to, because of time constraints and all. But every church will have this resolution signed by 31 state senators, and also remarks that were made on the Senate floor. by me, and also Bishop Amon, who is now the Archbishop of New Orleans. A wonderful, wonderful man. It meant a lot to me as well. He radiates goodness, so they chose a good man to be the Archbishop in New Orleans.
I see Senator Madeline's name on the resolution. You're a good friend.
We had the bathrooms are more important today than in the past, it seems. Seems like before people came to Mass, they came and they left. Now maybe the Masses are a little bit longer, I don't know. But the bathrooms are important. We have 2 there. We really should have them handicapped accessible. This room over here is, what we do here is we get a lot of confessions, so we hear confessions back here, plus the confessional. And on Sunday we have the spillover at the 12:30 Mass, and this would be filled with people. The choirs will practice here. If we have a wedding going on Friday evening in Lent, we'll do the Stations of the Cross in here rather than out in the church. And it's also a multi-purpose room for storage space. But maybe we could touch this up a little bit and make it a nice meeting room. Okay.
Father, thank you.
Thank you.
I look forward to working with you. I look forward to trying to reach the people of the diocese to join with me, to join with many of us who feel as I do, to make sure that we come up with the resources that are necessary to continue this historical building, this cathedral, and make it function for so many thousands of people in the future.
You've already been.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, you've already been very helpful and always
just
encouraging.
Have to communicate with the masses.
Yeah, we will, and we'll do it through the Mass too. Okay, and I'll remember you at Mass.
Yes. Okay.
God bless you. Okay. Okay.
Thank you.